Hi, I'm Min from PonderEd. This time, for a while that I haven't made lecture videos yet, but the reason is because I made a couple of them, but because I was planning to put some overlapping some slides over here, the graphic wise, to make it a little bit more informable. That really didn't work out because I ended up accidentally deleting the recorded videos. So the couple of videos about how to study mathematics and I don't even remember the title. Those two of them are gone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just simply go back to the old-fashioned way and then make it very simple and easy to edit, because editing takes some time, and then because of that I kind of like left it in behind and then accidentally deleting the file. So I'm gonna go back to the old-fashioned way. Now what I'm gonna do today, the lecture, YouTube lecture, is how to make your study as a student, or if you are an adult and then dealing with some of the projects in companies, or you own your own company, or doesn't really matter that whatever you do, and then especially focusing on the students, that how to improve or how to make the study a little more efficient. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to deal with all the detailed different types of the strategies, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to share one key, one of the fundamental key factor in to make your study a little bit more interesting and fun and more effective, so that you can focus a little more. So this is the actual methodology, and then besides the one that I provided for the study method and then how you can study it, this is basics, and I think mostly the methodology that I talked about when I actually delivering it for the students, then what I saw was that it's very slow processes. So students build the skills, but it takes about 1 or 2 terms to actually have some skills ready. So it's like a playing tennis, how to learn playing tennis. Like you have to build skills for like a few months until you are actually ready to enjoy and then do something like that. Okay. So similar things. So what I found is it takes about a couple of terms, which means like about in university setting, like a spring term and fall term, and then probably have some basic skills ready to use. But so I'm not going to be able to really deal with that training in the video lectures, other than that just providing the methodology. But this methodology I'm going to share is what I think is at least you can do on your own if you are students, either secondary or university, doesn't really matter. So you can actually apply this, and then if you are an adult and then you are dealing with some projects, then you can also adapt and apply for your project as well. But I'm going to focus on the students' study. So the methodology is very straightforward, and then what I'm going to provide is let's just talk about this methodology, and then I'm going to provide the reasons that the application in real life, because generally what people think is that this is study method. So I'm not talking about the knowledge building. This is methods that how to study, learn how to learn, and then how to study. So this thought process based education is actually methodology. So you can adapt and apply for any type of field. It doesn't really matter, mathematics, science, or philosophy, or whatever the field you are in. You can take this core and then apply your field, the interest of the topic, and then you can actually do this, and then you can learn based with this method. And because of this methodology, some people kind of like think that this is something like you're learning from schools or universities. But this is totally different. For example, in the schools, for example, let's say rain. is a topic. What generally, the way that they learn from the school is rain is a phenomenon that when the dark cloud condensed and to make a water drop, and then the water drops to the ground by the gravity or something like that. So basically, for the rain, in terms of learning in the school is something like this, all the knowledge. So students observe it. But what I say from the methodology is a building concept by the learners, by the person's, him or herself. Okay, so that's a little bit different. So I'm going to explain knowledge and then the differences in the knowledge and the concept first, and then I'm going to go directly to the methodology, and then I'm going to talk about how this methodology is actually used in real life cases. As I said, that it can be used in project delivering it, but it's actually can be used as a communication tools as well. So I'm going to provide specific examples so that you get some idea what they are. Okay, for now, let me get back to the knowledge first. Okay, so learning knowledge in the school is something like this. As I said, dark clouds and then condensation and then water forms and then drops to the ground, and this is knowledge that students are learning. The problem with this in the when learning is that once students learn about this knowledge, what are they gonna do after? They can memorize, they can take an exam, and then they can get certain marks and then pass the exam, but after that, how many chances they would have to use this knowledge? Besides, in school, there's a bigger problem, which called plagiarism issues or similarity in writings issues. For example, let's say there was about 50 students in a classroom and learned about the rain like this. And when they were given exams that, okay, describe about the rain. Describe something about about the rain. Then what happens is if a student remember condensation, or if a student remember the gravity or something like that, they will have higher marks compared to the students who forget about the words condensation and then they just wrote about the phenomenon. Then their marks will drop because the utilization of the knowledge that the given during the lecture is not really fully used. But there's some students who did extra work and then going through the internet and search and then found out that the rain before the dark clouds that the hitting the turning into the rain, that there's steams going up to the air and then forming the clouds. And if that student add on the information based on their own research after the, it is research. So after the school, then they could get extra level, which means that they could get extra point. So average students will utilize the knowledge that they learned in the class, and some of the students will be able to dig up some more information and add the knowledge in, and their writing will be a little bit different from other students. But think about it. In entire world, how many students are learning about this type of knowledge, especially when there's some fixed kind of textbooks in there? There will be some students who do the extra work, and then if those extra work, the work will be compared to each other, then we can easily kind of see that their writings will be all similar to each other. So knowledge is something that once you learn, and once you turn around, and then once you graduate, then unless you are in the field that you have to use the knowledge, for example, if you are the programmers, then learning how to program will be the one that you're constantly using it, so that will be the one that you're constantly using it. But for the business business the focus the students that learning about this scientific topics, what are you gonna do with it? Okay. So this is one of the issues. Okay. Now, then, what is the difference from knowledge to concept that I'm talking about? And so, building concept is the to build the concept, you have to adopt the methodology and you have to use it. Then, what is the difference from building concept and knowledge? Is something like this. Let's say I'm the student and I wanted to learn about the rain. Next day, the topic is rain. So I look up and then I remember from my memory or actually go out there and then see how it rains. So what I saw is there's a dark cloud and there's rain and drops and that's it. So I have no knowledge about condensation. I have no knowledge about gravity yet. So I just describe dark cloud and drops. So I will just abbreviate the cloud. This is a cloud and this is a dropping of water. So this is what I saw and what I described based on my observation. Then when I kind of described it in this way, let's say I made up the questions why cloud turns into drops, water drops. Why the cloud turns into the water drops seems to be very simple, easy questions, because you have to just use the why and then you add the you use the description and then just add the why and then make the questions. So it's very simple. So why cloud turns into drops, water drops. Now you had this question because you looked at it and then you described it and you turned into the description into the questions. Now when you go to the school, then what happens? Teachers or instructors or professors or the educators coming in and then trying to teach about the rain and saying that this is condensation happens right here in the dark clouds and then it drops, the water drops to the ground. And now, because I had questions why, what happens is information automatically goes into my brain and then sits inside of the brain and stays longer than just simply getting the knowledge out of it. Basically what happens is, if you took the lecture before, then you probably remember that if there's a concept and concept to make connections, this is a question to make the connection. So wiring two different bulbs is a question. So that means that once these bulbs are connected together, then now you have a longer memory and then you have better understanding. And more important thing is you learn how to make the concepts connected actively. So you basically, you know how to, what question, if you had a questions, then you learn next time, sometime, and when you face the some topics that is dealing in you had questions before, then that information automatically goes to your brain. Easier to pick up the brain. I mean, easier for the pickup, for the brain to pick up the knowledge. So this is how the study method has to be, to increase the curiosity and to increase the efficiencies in the study. But problem is, it's not very simple to follow this, to adopt this method. The reason is brain is not really, many of your brain is not really practiced, I mean, trained to make up the questions actively. So you have to force it. So for example, if you are learning golf, from the beginning you cannot really play like other experts. You have to practice and you have to get used to it and you have to once you get used to it, then you started developing on your own way. So this is the same thing. To make the brain to work, you have to work, and you have to follow initially what my suggestions, and later on you can develop your own methods. Then you will make the differences in your study. Okay, so here's specific ways for you to actually tackle. Now, because this is not the simple, you have to force your brain to bring up the generated questions. So the way to do is relatively simple in terms of the knowledge, but when you're practicing it, you will see that it's not that easy as I say. But unless you practice it, then there's no other way to improve your study. So this is the first thing. If tomorrow's topic is something like something that you can observe, this is the important thing. If you can observe it, for example, if wind, or how the airplane moves, or something like how the satellite works, or something like that. These are the ones that for you to be able to observe. That means you actually, before you read about it, before you digging into the information, before you do anything, you have to actually observe and describe what they are doing. So airplane, they move, right, in the air at certain altitude, and then there's a engine is there making loud sound, and then if you saw that how the engine is working, then you probably saw that there's a propeller inside of the engine that is constantly fast turning, and then there's some heat and the air pushed from the engine, and then the wing shapes, and then you can describe about the airplane. Then by just seeing it, instead of looking for the knowledge, instead of Google it and then see that how the airplane is designed, you actually have to see the airplane. And once you, like let's say airplane wings shaped like this, and then body size versus wing length is a certain ratio, and then let's say you observed all this. Then what happens is when you're going into the class, then when because all the teachers and the instructors, professors are knowledgeable, so they can provide all the information why the wings are like that and then what happens like this. So once you observe it, then you ask questions. Why? Just everywhere. This is a very simple, easiest way to do it. So why? Why wing? They designed the wing shape like a bump like this, but in the end, when it goes to the back of the rail side, that the bump is decreased with a certain degree of the angles or something like that. You ask questions about why the body size and then the ratio of the wings and the body size is certain ratio. So you just add simple why questions to the descriptions. Then later on, when you go to the school, then teachers will provide all the information. That those information is easier to digest. So you can learn faster and easier. Now, once class is done, this is so pre-study. Pre-study, meaning that before the class. Once you go through the class, lecture materials, and then with everything in the class dealt, then what you need to do is you have to review. In a way, something like this. So you compare the one that you have the information before the class, and then now you have the information that from the class, compare them and organize as a similar ones and different ones. And with different ones, the way you have to deal with, there's no other way. You have to just go back to the thought process based education, the one that the concept building, the methodology. You have to apply this. So that's how you increase your concepts. I'm not saying knowledge, because this is you who are making the connections, who are finding that the what is it actually the knowledge is meaning. So this is a simple methodology. You can, if you adopt and then use it, then your study will be very easy and simple, and then you will be more curious about the topics that will be dealt in the class, and then you will be gradually proactive to in your study. But the building concept part with the new knowledge will be a little bit challenging. But at least if you can do this pre-study and then review and separate them and then leave them as your questions, just simply open your brain to make the adaptable to the other information that will coming in the future. Then your brain will be developing, and more importantly, you will learn how to learn because you ask the questions. This is the first methodology. Now, this is as simple as something like walking, not running. At least you can walk with this with your study. Now, I asked you to generate the questions with why, where plus description, and then this is how you make yourself promoting it. How do you make your brain promote to be adaptable to the knowledge? But this is still passive. So what happens is that if you ask why and descriptions simply, then it's more likely you are ready to your brain is ready to take up the knowledge, but the knowledge is coming from others. Okay, so here's the one thing that second thing that I was gonna ask one more. So one, when you add these why questions, always put the description first and then ask why, even though this why question has the similar description as like this. For example, you describe dark clouds is there in case of rain, and then there's water drops to the ground, right? Then that's the description, and then another part you ask questions. Why water? Why dark clouds turns into water drops? Similar descriptions, it is repeating, but this one makes huge difference in the future for the life. Okay, so for example, something like this. If you ask someone, like teachers or parents, and then you can flashback your memory, then you probably have asked some questions like, what is this? What should I do? What can I do? How do you do this? Can you teach me how to do this? Can you share your knowledge about the way to handle this situation, right? You probably had these questions from kids, and why it's raining, and why it's snowing, and why it's wind blows, or something like that. These questions are okay when you're young and when you're a student, because students are the one that they try to learn the knowledge, right? But problem is if you ask similar questions when you're in the job places or some environment where you have to deal with the adults, then let's think about you ask something like this in your supervisor. What is this? Where should I find it? And then where can I get this? And then how do I deal with this? If you ask these questions, even though why is this like this? These type of questions. If you ask something like this in a very simple knowledge-seeking questions, because this is knowledge, because you're asking for, even though it look like some people confused with this, as they're asking for the methodology. Like, how should I do this? This look like a method asking for the methodology that to learn, but it's actually questions to ask. Questions asking to know about the knowledge the person has. Okay, because you're asking, if you're asking to the other people. So if you keep asking these type of questions, then your supervisor would think that, hey, haven't you tried it yourself before you ask? And you don't even know by now that what this is and how you handle this. This is general responses, right? Then think about it, what they will think about you. The first thing is, if you ask knowledge like, what should I do? How should I handle this? Meaning that I don't know anything about this. I haven't thought about anything about this. I haven't tried anything about this. Even though you did, this question implies to others that you never actually think about it or you never actually tried it. Then other people will consider you as someone like who don't know anything about it, basically stupid, so they have to babysit you. When they think they have to babysit you, then they'll think of you as someone that they kind of looking down on you and someone that who need help all the time, because you are looking for their answers. You are not looking for your own answers. You are not showing that you are proactive. You are doing something actively. So asking some questions like this will get you in trouble in the future, make your life miserable. Okay, so when you come up, you cannot describe. It'll be very challenging to have description and questions with descriptions. That's something that is not easy. But if you probably sometimes ending up with just why questions. That's okay when you're studying, because you're asking the question to yourself, and then you will make yourself to realize that I don't know this information. So make yourself to understand and to make it's actually triggering you to try to find more information. So when you're studying in the school, simply why question with the descriptions, that's okay. But for the future of your life, if you don't want to live a miserable life, then what you need to do is you need to practice how to describe it and ask questions with the descriptions. Because let's say you describe, okay, there's a dark cloud and the water is dropping, and why dark clouds turns into the water. If you ask these questions, then there's something that you are showing is that I observed actively and I saw that the water is formed from the dark cloud. That's my observation, and I described. That means that I have thought about it, but asking questions, but why? Why the dark cloud turns into the water? That I cannot find the answers, right? So basically, at least what I'm showing to others is I have tried to solve the situation, and I have tried to find the answers, but I cannot find the answers. That's a little bit lack of that's not lack of knowledge, that is lack of information. So for others to consider. Then what they will do, they will add you the information. If they don't know, then they will think of you as someone who they can discuss together. So they will go like, I don't know, but let's find it out. And you can see this similar situation in somewhere in either workshops or seminar, because when there's a seminar ongoing, then when you probably flash back the memory, or you probably have an experience. When you see that some of this type of situation, you will find some once in a while that speakers go like, that is a good question, right? But sometimes they don't have answers. If they have answers, they will provide it. But when they say that is the good questions, then analyze the questions, see how they ask. Then you will find they will describe what they see, and they will ask questions based on it. If they add their own idea, why? For example, let's say when water is forming, and then water is forming from the dark cloud, and then considering the person or certainly feel like when went out, it's chilly out there, and then you go like, okay, is it like a water forming from dark cloud because of the temperature? Well, that's what condensation is about, right? So if you ask questions like, okay, I see that the dark clouds, and then if transformed into water, and then water is dropping, and I feel cold, then why the dark cloud is turning into the water? Is it because of temperature? If you add that, then that's really superior questions. Because you found out something, some factors that might affecting in these turning processes, phase turning processes. Okay, now let me give you one real life example about this type of approaches and differences in the knowledge. This is actually experience that I had. There is a C company, there is an A company, and what I had is I purchased something from C, and I was expecting they send a point to A company because they said they can connect it, right? So I did it, and a few weeks later I saw there's no points added on from this C company for that specific purchase that I made. So I called in, and there was a number one representative answered, and this man said, okay, so you didn't see the point added on, okay, then I'll do it manually, submit it so that you can get it. So I said, okay, that's fine, then I'll wait until this manual submission is transferred to the A company. A couple of weeks later, I haven't still seen this manual add-on, so I called in again. There's one lady answered my phone and says that what she expresses is that when I purchased, I use my name here. No. When I purchased, I use my wife's name, and this account is under my name, so there's name mismatch, so account mismatch. So what she said is, they sent it, we sent it, she said, we sent it to a company, but because our record shows that the purchaser name is your wife's, and then this account is your name, so basically they will probably didn't receive it, so you have to check with this company. So what I did is, that didn't make sense to me, because both account information is in the C company, because I added this A company information in here, so I expected that if I purchase it, then because the account information is right here in the C company, it should transfer to the A. And then similar things, I did it before, that there was no problem with the other companies. So I told her, I never seen this type of situation, and I will later, as you suggested, I will check this out with A company. But since it is your company holding both names, this is what I said, so wouldn't it be any chance that your company, because there's a mismatch in the two different accounts, the money didn't go and hold on to your side? And she said, no, that never happens. And I asked, are you sure? She said, yes. So I asked her, then can I talk to your supervisor? You know what she said? No. And I asked her again, what is your name? And she said, Alice or something. So I was asking, how do I spell Alice? A something? That's not so. And then I tried to spell out, and then what she said is, no, that's not my name. And then she said, okay, wait a second. And then she put me on a hold and then hung up on me. So what I did, called in one more time, third person, this lady. I explained what happened in here and asked her if I can talk to supervisor. she said, okay, I'll transfer you to the supervisor, and you should be able to talk to the supervisor. So she will be able to transfer me to the supervisor. But meanwhile, she said, I think I can handle this situation. Would it be okay for her to deal with me to handle this situation? So I said, okay. So she looked at my account and said that, okay, there is a mismatch of your ordering person and then A account person name is mismatch. So automatic point the transfer doesn't work. This is why the number 1 is manually submitted. And she said it will take about 8 weeks or 2 months or something like that. Now I understood, but I still had to talk to the supervisor. So I talked to the supervisor, and supervisor says, you know, what she said is, the supervisor said when I called in, I explained the entire situation. She said the number 2 sent her the report and describing, saying that customer is so something like didn't listen and then stubborn or something like that. So she had to hang up. There was a report. She said there was a long report. Well, they said they are recording. They may record the recording. So I asked her, okay, check the recording then. I didn't even yell. I didn't even violent. I was just simply asking, can you check on your side if that's the your side is the one that holding the point. Okay. So this is the entire situation. Now the reason is this to show you that what it look like when in real life situation, the study method, the difference is how the study method will bring in different life in real life. Let's say, for example, for the number 1, if he explained saying your account is mismatching because of that transfer is not going from the beginning, so I will manually submit it. Then when I approach to number 2, I will probably approach in a different way. Alright? Second, let's take a look at number 2, the lady. She had the knowledge, which is from mismatch account, then the order transfer to the point transfer is not happening. But she is a lack of knowledge that where it happens. She was blaming the other one. So there's misinformation. So the basically knowledge, the incorrect knowledge is she is having. Number 3, I don't know it is because I explained the entire situation or not, was able to looking at the situation and plus with what happened in the manual submissions. So she could explain it. If she didn't know about this, then probably she will gain the knowledge. So this is like a plus point for her, this situation. And she also have another plus because she was able to resolve the situation before I move on to the supervisor. So I cannot judge if she was able to really handle from situation like this. When I first approached, she's the one that answered the phone. Like number 2, I don't know exactly, but at least situation made her to be able showing that she was able to see, observe, and describe all the situation, and also resolve the situation. So for the supervisor, she will be the one having another plus point. For the number 1, besides, did something that she was able to do, but he wasn't able to really fully describe it, so I had to call back. Then if that's the recording that is showing up, then number 1, the handling the situation might be on the question from supervisor. So this is like there's no plus minus, like probably 0 for this person. Now let's take a look at number 2. What could happen to this person? Probably either having warning so that's minus, right? Because of she actually had a lack of knowledge, and she wasn't really take a look at entire situation closely to try to resolve the situation. So resolving situation cannot be even expected from here. So she's like -2 in there. And you think about it. Who's gonna be the one that being promoted in the next round? Who's gonna be the one on the list that on the top? This is number 3. But still, they're relying on the luck. If I called in her first, then I don't know what would be her responses. If she really had experiences, then probably she'll be able to handle. But if she didn't have experiences, then it's totally up to her. Okay? So this is what people with knowledge, okay, they know what to do. And then, but their outcomes are kind of depending on the luck at the time. But let me give you one example. If number 1, from the beginning, was able to describe and in detail saying, okay, I see he ordered, I see he added that A account in here. Oh, okay, but the name is not matching. Okay, then question. Because of that, if the name doesn't match, names are matching, because of that, then points cannot be going out to the actual A company. Then let's say if, well, he manually submitted, meaning that he knows how to handle, at least his side that he can do it. So that means then there's only one question left, and then he submitted. And let's say he went to the supervisor asking, okay, I had this situation, there's name differences, and the points supposed to go doesn't go. So I added them manually and asking supervisor that, okay, so is this on our side when there's name mismatch that it cannot really transfer? Then supervisor will go like, oh yes, that's the case. Then when there are names mismatched, then points cannot go. So you wanted to encourage customers to use the same matching name, then it won't happen, or something like that, right? Then, let's say manually submitting is not really the company policy, but still, because this person described it and then tried to resolve the situation by himself, so this is proactive actions in there, then supervisor will see, yeah, he is actually trying to do something and then try to resolve something, and well, now he did this, but this is not really in our company policy, but the next time you just follow our policy so that you don't make this type of mistake or something like that, right? Let's say if you knew, because it should be on the manual, that means that you already have the knowledge, but let's say you want to make sure that, because let's say you had all these situations understood and everything, you resolve all the situations that customer complaints, then one thing is that you are not really showing standing out, because customers don't complain anything because you resolve pretty much all the situation. Doesn't mean that the supervisor can look at you in different way. So you have to make yourself visible. Now, you never discuss this situation with your supervisor, right? Then you go like next time to communicate with the supervisor and make sure that the supervisor knows that what you are doing, and goes like, I had this situation mismatch, and then I had to do it as a manual submission, and I just want to confirm if this is our company is really, I'm following our company's policy or something like that. Then supervisor will see, oh, yep, this situation is there, and then the person is try to resolve the situation, observe it, resolve it, and then make a decision and that fits into the company policy, and supervisor will go like, yeah, that's correct. And then the supervisor will recognize this person as someone who can really do the work proactively. Okay, this is how it's gonna be happening in the real life cases. If you are able to really observe and describe first and ask questions and follow the link, then if you use it as a communication device, then you will be able to make to be different from others, not challenging others. You are really showing that you are outstanding. Okay, you are not really challenging these people, right? If you keep asking something and then like questions like, what is this? Why should we do this? And then even complaints like, this shouldn't be the way to do, or something like that. That supervisor is not gonna really show you. Even though your idea is good, supervisor will think you are the one that are trying to overtake the position. They will try to chop you out. Okay, so this is how the methodology in study really reflects in the real life. Well, one of the things that I wanted to add here is that my education, the interior education, this is a thought process based education only. There's wisdom building education part. Wisdom building education, this thought process based education will make you to be able to really deal with situation that you're happening inside of the pyramid. So you can move up, and you train to discuss with how to be sitting on the top of the pyramid. Okay, but wisdom building education is not. So eventual goal is completely out of all these pyramid structures and ultimate freedom of the human life, which is, I would say, totally different world, not in the world that you've been seeing inside of the pyramid. Okay. Yeah. So that's it for the study methodology. So if you utilize the methodology, then I can guarantee your study will be easy and fun and more effective. And then your knowledge building will be a lot more efficient, and then you can increase knowledge a lot more. And also your life, you can make your life turn into the enjoyable and free of any stress. Okay. And now, as I make this video, I'll make another one which is about brain work.